Get ready. Here we go.
Hello, and welcome to the Scream Queens coaster community where no one rides alone. We are a safe and thrilling coaster community that centers and connects LGBTQIA+ enthusiasts in person and online. Our official Instagram and Discord launched in August 2023, and since then we've continued to grow and meet awesome people through the Discord and our meetups and events. We'd like to take this first drop of our podcast to give you some guide wheels, who we are, why we exist, and how to join the fun. My name is Michael, I live in Philadelphia, and I'm one of the Scream Queens leads. I've been an ACE member off and on since I was 10 years old, but only just in the last couple of years, in my 30s, have I fully dove into coasters as a lifestyle, going on road trips, attending coaster events, and engaging with the coaster community in earnest for the first time. One fateful Sunday afternoon in August 2022, I met up with some other coaster enthusiasts from Instagram at Six Flags Great Adventure. The 7 of us spent a few hours having the time of our lives. Though many of us were meeting for the first time, we kikied like old friends. In our group, only a couple of people had ever been ACE members or attended coaster events. One of us wasn't even a coaster enthusiast at all, but a friend that had joined for a day at Six Flags. We all stayed in contact after that and chatted about how it was the most fun we had ever had at an amusement park and how we wished more coaster events could be like that. We noticed and talked about how, for some reason, a lot of coaster enthusiasts seem to be LGBTQ, statistically what would be called an overrepresentation. There seems to be a lot of reasons for this. Coasters and amusement parks are a safe source of thrills for adrenaline seekers outside of the more straight, bro-y vibes of the extreme sports world. Entering into an amusement park has the feeling of leaving the real world behind and entering a fantasy escape where there is no pain and suffering, just joy and fantasy and thrills. There's also an inherent fabulous campiness to amusement and theme parks. The immersive and sometimes not so immersive themed lands, the colorful buildings with forced perspectives and fake facades, the razzle-dazzle of singing and dancing and juggling entertainers in glittery outfits, the sometimes goofy and obscure yet iconic park mascots prancing around. The world of theme parks is both smaller scale and larger than life, a clean and welcoming utopia that imagines a world free of judgment and hate. Theme parks can at times seem custom-tailored to queer sensibilities. So for these reasons, and I'm sure many more, yes, there are a lot of LGBTQIA+ enthusiasts out there. And so it should be no surprise that our little social group began to grow quickly. Whenever we would meet up again at a park, more coaster enthusiasts and non-enthusiast friends were brought along. Over the next winter, the original group that had met up at Great Adventure decided this had to become a real and official thing, that amongst all of the various coaster enthusiast clubs and organizations, there was a gap, a social coaster group catering to the LGBTQ+ community. After a long period of planning and preparations, in August 2023, just under a year after our fateful meeting, we unveiled the Scream Queens Coaster Community. Now, the name of our group is key. We are not a coaster club. There is no membership, no fees, nothing to officially join. So who are we? We are members of the LGBTQIA+ community and allies. Everyone is welcome, with an understanding that we fiercely believe in and stand behind diversity, acceptance, and celebration of all members of the LGBTQIA+ community. There is no group left out or left behind. We exist to spark and spread queer joy in the parks. If you are an ally and all of this sounds like something you want to take part in, we welcome you with open arms, with the fundamental understanding that there are plenty of other groups and clubs out there for roller coasters, and our purpose is quite clear and self-evident. Now, In terms of taking part in SQCC, you can follow us on Instagram at screamqueens.cc and get the basic information regarding official SQCC events. You can also tag our account when you take selfies in the parks, and we'll repost you in our stories. However, to really take part in the community in a meaningful way, you're going to want to join our Discord, which is open to everyone over 18 years old. On there, you can find a general roller coaster chat, as well as people sharing photography, music, memes, and most importantly, you can join in the planning of SQCC meetups and events. So what is the difference between a meetup and an event? Well, a meetup can be started by anyone in Discord. There's a general meetup chat where you can just drop a simple message like, hey, I'm thinking of going to Dorney Park next Saturday. Who wants to join? But you can also create your own thread so that your meetup has a designated space to invite people and make your own plans for the day and communicate with each other throughout the day when you're in the park. These meetups are informal and self-directed, and as such, they are your own responsibility. You can make your own plans, and it's up to you to follow through on them. If a meetup has gained some traction and there are at least 8 guaranteed attendees, it can be upgraded into an official event. An event will receive the official SQCC stamp of approval, promotion on our social media, and an official itinerary with meetup points and group photos to be carried out by a Scream Queens ambassador. The ambassador is a designated team leader approved and selected by the Scream Queens leads as the contact point for any questions and concerns before and during the event. They can be contacted through the Discord thread for the event or messaged directly in Discord. During events, the Discord thread is the easiest way for attendees to stay in contact and find each other. Just make sure to keep all notifications turned on in the event thread, and everyone can collectively keep each other up to date with relevant information. If all of this Discord stuff sounds complicated, you're not alone. I'm new to Discord myself, and I definitely groaned initially at the thought of having to download and learn yet another app. But trust me, it's worth it, as it will unlock for you the possibilities of our community. You'll get to chat with and meet other like-minded enthusiasts and get to take part in planning those meetups and events. We recommend having a personal picture or your real name so that people will know who they're talking to, and you can also link your profile to your Instagram or another social media account so that those connections are easier to make. But of course, safety and privacy are of utmost importance, and this is all completely up to you. We started this community as a way to find and meet other enthusiasts, but how you use Discord as a tool for that is in your hands. You can create and join threads that interest you, customize notifications for each thread, block members, and can reach out to Scream Queens leads with any questions or concerns. Speaking of SQCC leads, let's hear from a couple more of them. To talk a bit more about the Scream Queens and how we got started, I'd like to bring in Scott and Mike, two of the Scream Queens leads. Hello, Scott.
Hey.
Hello, Mike.
Hello.
Now, you two actually have a history with Scream Queens that predates our current incarnation. Can you tell us about that?
So back in 2016, we started a Facebook group with a bunch of my friends and people I used to work at Cedar Point with, or grew up in Ohio with, or lived in the city, in New York City with. I've kind of been all over, who liked coasters. So we created this Facebook group and started to plan a trip to go to Cedar Point for their unofficial gay day, which is on Father's Day each year. On the Facebook page for that group, they told everyone to wear blue. So Mike and I created for our group Scream Queens Coaster Club. It wasn't Coaster Community back then. Scream Queens Coaster Club merch for the first time.
And what was really interesting is we weren't hooked up with any websites that were kind of making the merch for us, since it was just going to kind of be a small thing. And the merch idea was actually last minute. We're all just going to wear blue, but then we're like, wait a minute, we kind of want to, show off this little group that we're putting together. And then the idea came to actually design the logo, which hadn't been designed yet, and then get that screen printed on some shirts. And since it was all very last minute, I had to run out and get a screen burned. And then we picked silver paint, and then I did the screens for each person's shirt by hand. And it was funny because, you have people getting added on last minute and getting one more shirt in or screwing one up and having to do another one. But it was a fun process, and it really kind of made the whole thing feel very official at that point, which is very cool.
For the unofficial gay day on Father's Day back in 2016, that was like our first real trip. And it was a group of 8 of us. We had our Scream Queen shirts. And then there were other gays in the park that day that we'd just say hello to or whatnot. But we weren't really anything bigger than our group of friends. That year, one of the things that was really touching that I'm not taking credit for, but the Facebook group admins of the unofficial gay day for Cedar Point, it was a couple weeks after the Pulse massacre. So they wanted to do a moment of silence as we were trying to be out and proud, but also, remember what happened and take a moment for that. So that was one of the coolest moments I ever had at a theme park, was meeting with them, and it was extremely moving. We all just met in front of Iron Dragon in a circle, and that was just something that, I guess it showed me how meaningful a group like this could be.
Yeah, I think one thing we talked about, for me, that was the first time doing something like that in the park. Actually having to stand in a place like Cedar Point, which it is, fairly welcoming, but it's not like, gay destination USA, and we're all there, kind of standing up for something that we believe in, and also remembering the lives of people that were lost by them just existing in a nightclub and being somewhere that they believed in and they wanted to have fun. So I think it was just very important, just looking at the parallels between, everybody being out and proud and being able to be safe in their space. And then us just looking again at the Scream Queens group, even in its infancy stage of just looking around and seeing that, theme parks and amusement parks wind up being safe havens for a lot of queer people, and just looking at how important that is and how that's a place that should be protected, especially since it's a safe space, for a lot of us.
So after the unofficial gay days at Cedar Point trip, the Facebook group kind of was just friends like posting when they were at parks. There weren't really many more events that happened. It also was part and due to both of Mike and I's work schedules, and I was in Ohio, then Florida, while Mike was in Jersey, and just our trips were really just when we can meet up and go to parks. At that point, it was hard to really turn the group into what we wanted it to become. The group still exists. We did recently change the name from Coaster Club to Coaster Community, and let everyone know about the Discord and the Instagram page so that they can join in on all the new fun.
One thing to call out too is that it was also hard, I think, for us to kind of pull away from it, because Scott went to continue his dream of building roller coasters. He had an awesome opportunity to go to Florida to work on, rides like Cobra's Curse, Tigress, really, really awesome things and experiences. But I also think along the way, it allowed him to make really great connections within the coaster community, as well as, just kind of meeting people on Instagram, meeting people that when we were in parks, so that eventually when this thing did take off, at a different time, all those pieces were still kind of in play.
Now, when you say building roller coasters...
Yes. I used to work for a contractor that erected the ride. So I didn't design them, but I got to build 8 different attractions, which was really cool.
That's awesome. So years later, we met one day at Six Flags Great Adventure.
And also shout outs to Instagram, because I feel like there was this point of people posting fun things and kind of little adventures that people go on. And then you start to see more of these coaster pages and enthusiasts pop up, so it was a really kind of great connecting space to bring people together, and I think that really helped us kind of that person's at Kings Island this weekend, or that person's at this park this weekend. So you kind of get a good gauge of who these people are, that they're really kind of taking, this hobby seriously. And, I think that all kind of led into that initial group of people who came together that day at Six Flags Great Adventure.
Well, yeah, and I don't know about everyone else, but whenever I would post like a coaster trip thing, I'd always put like gay coaster enthusiast or queer coaster enthusiast as a tagline on Mike and I's photos, hoping that we'd meet other people. So it was like we were always trying to find everyone else. It finally happened. And then when Michael messaged us, and I think Nathan was messaging you about going to Six Flags it was a Sunday, right, in September. And we were like, yeah, let's just go. And it was a great day. Like it happened organically. It wasn't even like, let's go at open. Like everyone just kind of trickled in during the day and met up with us. And
yeah, I think Michael came from Maury's Pier.
Yeah, you came from Maury's Pier, right?
Yeah, so it was in August. I had come straight from Coastin' by the Ocean, the annual coaster event there. You guys messaged me saying, hey, we're going to Six Flags, join us. And I was exhausted, but decided I would just pop in for a couple hours to meet you and say hi. And then that was just the start of totally something different and unexpected altogether.
Yep. And then next thing you know, we're, have a group chat for just talking coasters and another group chat planning trips. The group just kind of kicked off from there. Now it's expanded even more with Discord.
And just to call out that day, like, you would have thought that everybody had known each other, for longer than, just meeting in that one day in that one space. But I think everybody who was there was just so appreciative to kind of just like be, again, in a safe space with people with similar interests, just looking to have a good time. It was very silly, lots of jokes, very fun. Everybody was enjoying the coasters. And that's another thing about the group as well, is you can go to a park that you've been to 100 times, but when you're there with a really good group of friends and people that you enjoy being with, it really amplifies the experience and makes it something a little bit different, a little bit more special.
Absolutely. So last year, in May, before we went official on Instagram and Discord, we had a group meetup at Cedar Point. Around 15 people joined in, including myself. It was sort of a dry run for our future official Scream Queens group, but it also harkened back to your previous Cedar Point trip with your original Scream Queens group all those years ago. Tell us about that.
So Cedar Point will always be near and dear to my heart. It's the home park I grew up with. I worked there in college, sorry. I know the park inside and out. It's a very exciting park to always share with people who have never been there before. I truly love that because there's no pressure for me when I'm in the park. I've been on everything multiple times. So it's just very fun to show other people the park, and it's a hard park to conquer. So I love taking people there and getting on every credit, We had a large group from New York and a large group from Philly. So the New York group actually had to rent a van together and trek the 8 hours to Norwalk, Ohio. That year, we stayed at my parents' house. We won't be doing that in the future, but we all crashed at my parents' house for the weekend and enjoyed the park on Friday and Saturday and drove back on Sunday. Friday was a really fun day. Most of the group stuck together, kind of trusted Mike and I, showing them our typical Cedar Point strategies, taking advantage of early entry and hitting specific rides at certain times and knowing how to be flexible throughout the day when a couple rides break down or whatnot. But it was a really, really great day and great weekend, and like our first, I would say, bigger road trip that we ever put on.
And one thing that's really great is, every enthusiast knows this, but for anybody who's listening who's not, Cedar Point, for a lot of people, is kind of like the holy grail of coasters in the United States. If you aren't familiar with the territory, it could be a little cumbersome to get to. It's a plane to a train to a camel kind of situation. And this was great because it was allowing, people from the New York metro area, from Philly, from other spaces to kind of come together and get to this park and feel like they could get to it, do it really well. And for a lot of people, it's definitely like a dream come true park, and it was just awesome, like rolling up the causeway with like everybody early that morning and just seeing the pure excitement. It was like everybody was a kid again. And that's the feeling that we try to like create when we're in these spaces with the group. But again, it was just amazing to see everybody just in that moment. And even for those who'd been there a couple of times before, it was just the excitement of also seeing others just being happy. And then also big shout out to Scott's family, because he does come from a big family. So they're accustomed to operating with a big group. But when we got to the house, everybody's names were on the door. We had snacks and everything that the parents laid out for everybody. So not only did they feel welcomed getting to Cedar Point, but they felt welcomed also in the place that they stayed, which is a testament to Scott's family and how he grew up. But it was just an overall, I think, just very welcoming, warm experience for everybody who was able to attend.
And just to reiterate, Scott's family will not be bringing people in and feeding them at future events. That was a one-time thing.
But you might be invited to a fire after the park.
Yeah, a bonfire.
There might still be s'mores.
But the goal is for our group to grow and grow and grow. So, there's a certain cutoff at some point. I'll also add that while we were, not a huge group, but 15 people is a big group to sort of navigate a big park like Cedar Point. We also had lots of times where we would splinter off into smaller groups, and some people would even just take off on their own for a little while and do their own thing. And that's what I really love about all of our meetups when we're in parks together, is that we tend to have a general schedule, and our official Screen Queens events will have specific meetup points and places and times, but everyone is still able to just experience the day on their own terms and make their own fun out of it, make new friends, and go off and ride the ride you want when you want. It's all very just...
Create your own adventure.
Create your own adventure. Yes, thank you.
100%. And that's one of the things that we try to do when we meet in the mornings is like, hey, who all here is like collecting the credits and needs to ride every single thing? And who all here is, chilling today and they've been to the park before and just want to ride their favorites? Because it's important to like hang out with the group of the people that are trying to do the same thing as you, So
and
I think that's
also important understanding that like, as much as you are there with the group, if this is somebody's first time to like this type of park, they have an agenda, and it's good to respect that people have separate things that they want to do, and just find spaces for everybody to have their own thing. So that's why I think, we'll have meetup and kind of check-ins. And for us, those are important because there might be a situation where like, hey, you know what? I splintered from the group, but I'm not really having a great time. I'm kind of catching a lot of like down rides or like, big lines, or, hey, I'm having a great time. Things are well. And, I'm just going to go back on, my journey. But it's a good space for us just to like check in, make sure people are doing well. If they need a buddy, if they need someone to kind of team up with, it's that one little space just to kind of like reassess the day and make sure everything is going well for everyone.
The other thing I like to do now on park days is post what I'm doing on the Discord so people can see where our group is, like, hey, we're all over at Magnum. We're all eating dinner here. It gives people a chance to like, if they do want to meet back up, they can, but it's no obligation. But also putting out where you are, it lets people meet back up with you.
Or one great thing where it's like, oh, Magnum that was just down for an hour is back up. Everybody haul and get over because the line is short. So there's a lot of good things with having that extra layer of communication.
Oh yeah, sometimes it's great to have friends on the other side of the park to tell you not to go over there because the ride is down. So there is strength in dividing and conquering.
When you're at a park like that, it's very strategic. And that's what you kind of got to do to have a good time in those spaces. Sometimes the park is dead, sometimes it's not, but a little bit of communication and planning definitely at Cedar Point at least goes a long way.
Totally. Well, Mike, speaking of how you had designed the shirts in the previous incarnation of Screen Queens, you've also designed our merch for our Screen Queens today. Can you talk about your designs and the inspiration behind them?
Yes, yeah. So one little thing about my background is I'm a designer, so I've been working in fashion for years. With that being said, I've always kind of looked at coaster merch from afar. And there's always been some things that I loved about looking at other people's stuff and things I'm like, oh, you can just tweak that or do that. But for me, it was just making sure that the logo felt as like clean and official as possible, but also harken back to some of the things that we kind of all seen growing up. And that's where like, when you look at the logo, it's a arrow looper train. And then we wanted to figure out a way, and I'm saying we because it was also a collective effort. There was a lot of like, do a little bit of this, show some of the people that are in the group, do a little bit of that, so there was collaboration into getting what we wanted. We wanted to make sure that we incorporated the pride aspect of it. So having the cool horizontal lines coming off the back of the arrow train, we wanted to show that speed. But then we also wanted to show the fun side. So that's where like the gradient of the rainbow came in. And then also with designing the main logo, we also did some kind of like offshoots for some other graphics. Because again, we wanted to have kind of the logo that like was the group and that you would see on the Instagram page and any like official branding that we would have for the group. But then we wanted to have some stuff that was just kind of a little bit more fun and playful. And we had a fun little like rap session with everybody where we got ideas and like, oh, add a loop on that, or, do this one that looks like the hump from, the what was it from Maverick?
We specifically wanted Maverick's airtime hill.
Yes. So we did a bunch of cool iterations of the graphic as well to go with that. But yeah, I think that's the story behind the graphic.
Well, thank you so much for chatting, you two. You have been an instrumental part of the past and the present of the Scream Queens. What do you two hope for the future?
So when we talk about the future, I think a lot of people start comparing themselves to their peers and looking at a lot of different coaster groups and like getting really big and getting a lot of notoriety. And the thing for me personally that I always look back at was growing up when I was younger, when, you would just go online to just Google fun coaster things and you look at all the pages. I would always look at like Theme Park Review, and I would just always see these groups of people going to these really exotic fun places and having an amazing time. And it just looked like so far away. Something that just like I couldn't imagine that, especially for queer, person of color, who's into coasters, trying to create something like this or get in on something like this. And I wanted to always have that kind of like smaller feeling when you're going to a park with a bunch of your friends and you're experiencing things for the first time and you're laughing, you're joking and having a good time. And that could be overseas. It could be in Japan. It could be in Germany. It could also be in our home park that we've been 7,000 times. But whatever it is and wherever the group goes, I want that small kind of a really fun group of queers coming together, queers and allies, coming together and just really enjoying everything that we love in the spaces that we love. And whatever great things come along with it, so be it. But as long as we maintain that feeling and as long as the people that are within the group still feel safe, feel loved, and feel like it's a safe space for them to enjoy their favorite hobby.
Yeah. For me, I want the same. I just hope that we can continue to keep having great meetups where people are having a good time, being themselves in the places they love. It doesn't need to be complicated. I just want us all to have a good time and keep planning fun trips together. I'd love to see an international trip happen in the future, but it's all up to us and us planning things together and making it happen. I see great things for the group. I just hope we just keep having fun.
Well, and for international people, they can use the Discord to meet up with each other and get into the parks with each other before we, make it all the way over there to join them. We've sort of put out the tools for people to pick it up and run with it themselves as well.
Yep. Hopefully we can find some people like myself that can show us around their home parks, Yeah. That's the power of this group. We can, and the Discord itself, it has the ability to plan and go to someone else's hometown and let them show you around, there's so much power in this group, and we've created in a way that it's useful. I feel like the Discord is useful for planning. The meetup pages on that are so much less convoluted than being on one chat, it's really, really great. So I hope people learn how to use it and take advantage.
Yeah, we've been seeing some great spots in the Discord where if somebody is going to a park alone, and they just want, hey, it'd be nice to have another person come through. It'd be nice to have, a companion on this day. And they'll just kind of create, a little thread, and they'll have a little, meetup going, and you'll see like little conversations start up. It's great to see that happen because, the one thing that we always talk about with this group is no one rides alone. And it's not something that you can always avoid, but this also makes it a space where there is an option to help that out if you can, if you want to be in a park with a friend that day.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you for chatting and see you soon, Queens.
Thanks for having us,
Thanks
Michael.
for having us. Bye.
At the time of this recording, the group of designated Scream Queens ambassadors is small as we navigate the delicate balance between growing with this community's needs and maintaining our high standards and expectations. Essentially, the group of ambassadors will grow organically and in accordance with our needs. Our group of Scream Queens leads, who run the community, Discord, and Instagram, has already gone through some changes since launching, and we will only continue to change to meet the group's needs and the needs of the leads and ambassadors themselves. All of this work is completely voluntary. As discussed, we do have merchandise for sale on Redbubble, and these proceeds will only ever go towards covering our own costs that may incur. No one is profiting from Scream Queens. We are just a group of nerdy coaster queers that are fiercely dedicated to the cause of connecting like-minded coaster-loving people. We love the diversity of our meetups and events. Not just the diversity of sexualities and gender identities and expressions, but the diversity of the coaster dedication. Some people are lifelong enthusiasts. Some people maybe grew up near a major park and want to get into it more as a hobby, but they don't necessarily know the names of coaster manufacturers. Some people, like myself, used to be major enthusiasts when they were younger and have now come back to it later on in life in full force. Some people are just friends of someone else. They get brought along for the day but end up having the time of their lives. We've had people show up that have never been on a roller coaster before in their life. We love to see it, all of it. We've had people tell us how welcomed they felt in the group, even when they weren't necessarily big coaster enthusiasts themselves. We've also had people tell us how refreshing it is to partake in an activity that doesn't center around alcohol, since the LGBTQ community can tend to be centered around the bar scene. Now, some of us may imbibe in a drink in the parks here or there. We're not specifically a sober group, but drinking is certainly not a driving force behind our meetups, and we want everyone to feel comfortable and safe. Personally, I have already met so many fantastic people from all different walks of life and all different depths of roller coaster fandom and knowledge, and I can't wait for you to experience the same thing. This group has helped me get through a personally difficult time in my life, and I've had several other people tell me the same thing, that we're providing a sense of community and belonging that's been missing in their life, all while getting to enjoy our favorite thing in the world, riding roller coasters. This podcast has served as a quick introduction to who we are and how to get involved. There's no planned schedule for future episodes, but whenever we have more content to share and this seems like the appropriate medium for it, we'll share it here, so go ahead and subscribe. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram, where you'll find the links to our Discord and our Redbubble, and you can get yourself involved with this beautiful new community. Make new friends, come to a meetup or event, bring your own friends along. Let's all keep spreading the thrill and joy of roller coasters and all take part in making this community be the best it can be. Thank you for listening, and see you out there, Queens.